Greetings, family, and welcome to another episode of Dr. Mumbi's Spiritual Show. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray, family, that you are well in all your ways and that you're doing the necessary work on yourself so that you can continue to elevate, to expand, and to become who you were always meant to be. A very special shout out to the sponsor of today's show, rubyfinance.ca. You know, Ruby Finance, I have mentioned that they are actually sponsoring, not sponsoring, but they've organized a trip to the Gambia this November, family. It's both a business trip and a spiritual kind of reconnection to the motherland for all of you guys who are in the diaspora. I've also gotten people from within Africa who are interested. Definitely reach out to Ruby Finance's team, and they'll be able to tell you if they're able to organize for you to come from like Cote d'Ivoire or wherever. Their email address is hello@rubyfinance.ca. So for 2 weeks, family, from November 12th to November 24th, Ruby Finance will be taking a group, on this spiritual and business journey. There'll be a lot of different sessions where you'll have the opportunity to interact with locals, with the diaspora who have relocated, with potential investors. So it's going to be a very hands-on trip. And if you've been considering going to the motherland, then this is definitely an opportunity you should take advantage of. It's always good to see the motherland, under the guidance of people who have seen it before and among people of like mind, as you kind of, set your bearings. So Ruby Finance actually, after the huge interest that was shown by you guys, Ruby Finance has actually organized 2 information sessions. The first one is July 29th at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the other one is August 2nd, same time. You can get the links for that, rubyfinance.ca/Gambia 2023. Check out their website, because they also deal with selling properties, not just in the Gambia, but also in the Republic of Congo. And, family, I think we are in such a special season, a season of healing, a season of restoration. It may feel sometimes very, very overwhelming, but trust me, it is worth it. And I just wanted to put everything into perspective. I feel like I may have talked about this again, but you can never talk about these things enough, because it's all about transforming and changing our mind. And Babylon and the wrong thinking has had access to our mind for so long. The kind of resetting our minds can prove to be quite an ongoing process, I think. And we do take quantum leaps in like our mental understanding, but it does take time, especially if we've suffered from any kind of childhood trauma, etc., etc. But what we're fighting for, family, what is being contested for, is the memory of the world, and more importantly, the memory of the ancient ones. Because if they erase our memory and then they block the ancient ones from coming through, then they have the world. Because as I keep saying, family, this is a mental reality first, or we can call it a soul reality, because it's your heart and mind that actually produces, your experience. And if they've already messed with that, the mechanism of creating that. They've done everything to attack us as creators. First of all, by trying to brainwash us that we're not creators, that we don't have creative power, that there's only one God, and if we don't worship that God, we're going to hell. I mean, they've done so much, family. And it was systematic. It was insidious, family. And it started from when we were like baptized as children. That was the very first ritual they did on us, pouring that water on our third eye, or our first eye, as I like to call it, and saying all kinds of gibberish just to shut it down. But the vibrations of the world have changed. There's new information that is just being beamed to us. that is unlocking us and awakening us and elevating us by any means necessary, family. And there has been this massive awakening that's gone on, and the only reason that Babylon is being defeated, family, is because collectively we're getting our memory back. You see, they had intended the internet, the World Wide Web, to be just that, a web that kind of completely consumed everyone's energy and everyone's aura and helped them to create this new world order and to really implement a prison planet. That was the whole idea of the World Wide Web, but it's like they didn't really fully over in and understand the power of group consciousness and the fact that it is the group mind and the group heart that creates that group's reality. So they've done so much, family, to break down our history, to whitewash our history. I've talked about this so many times, family, to dissociate, to make sure all our books, all our libraries were totally destroyed, to take over nations like Egypt and put, false Egyptians there, etc., 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 stories for other days, family. They've done the most to mess with our memory. And you'll find, family, if you even reduce this to your own individual story, a lot of us who came in with special divine powers, who were the chosen ones, who the powers that be, we've been targeted individuals, we've faced all kinds of abuse as children, monitoring, all kinds of things to make sure that we didn't make it, being born into the most evil, wicked, narcissistic families. What you'll find is that so much was done to oppress our memory. Because as long as the enemy of our individual and collective souls can oppress our memory, then they can, block or delay our destiny. As long as they suppress who you are, then you can't come out of that. And what happened is that instead of this World Wide Web actually now enforcing their prison planet, it has become a tool for the liberation of many, many chosen ones. And that's why, it's a what do they call it? A catch-22, or it's a positive and it's like a two-edged sword. Because while many of our people have been liberated, and and many of our gods, a lot of our memory has been resuscitated and shared. And then if we look at some of the ancients who had done the research and who had done all like the Bobby Hemmett's, the Frances Westling, am I saying her name right? All of these great teachers, family. It's like the minute the World Wide Web came on, the minute the YouTubes of this world came on, all those teachings were put there. And they have seen enough eyes, even on the planet, family. I was saying the planet, the plane, but I was going to say Mama Africa, actually, that it is starting to revive a lot of memory. Because the memory, the false memory that was created by Babylon cannot stand up against all this truth. And their secret is just not holding anymore. And also, especially because, this is Errol, my co-host. Errol, please get down. Stop it. Stop it. No, we're not playing. So much is going on, family. So much has been done to suppress our memory, especially with the secret societies and all the knowledge that they've used to create their New World Order and their false artificial intelligence. But it's also been used as a tremendous tool for our awakening. There was an interesting fact that was pointed out about how in the last decade, the powers that be have made sure that every African has some kind of mobile device in their hand. And so you'll go to the most remote villages. They may not have running water, they may not have homes, they may not have anything, but they'll have a mobile phone and they'll be connected to the world. And at first that was so that they could implement this prison planet. But what has happened is there was some brilliant mental soldiers and mental magicians family that incarnated in this season, that have used and manipulated Babylon's instruments of oppression to actually become the instruments of our liberation. Because the memes and all this information, they go around and people can absorb that in 5 minutes. And it's changing so much up here, family. And so I share all this just to let you know that what we're fighting for is our memory, and we shouldn't take that for granted. That's where our liberation is. It's in our story. This world is governed by narratives, family. Whoever controls the narrative controls the world. For so long, us as a melanated people, because we didn't understand the rules to the game, we were playing the wrong game, family. It's like playing basketball when everyone else is playing football, and you're actually showing up with your basketball team of 5 guys with facing a football team of 11 guys. I don't know if you know what I'm trying to say. Like, we've always been playing the wrong game. We've always been led in the wrong direction, made to focus on the wrong thing. And that's because whenever we reach a certain consciousness, they've always hijacked that freedom. It's just like when we were gaining independence as African nations, it started mentally, family, and it really gained momentum. Like, if you look closely, the freedom, liberation movement that happened in the divided states happened almost simultaneously with the liberation and independence movements that happened in the motherland. And at some point, these minds came together on the motherland, and it changed everything. But what Babylon did is they quickly hijacked the independence process, and they assassinated and took out the greatest leaders, not just the Malcolm X and the Martin Luther King Jr., but also our Kwame Nkrumahs, our PLO Lumumbas. They took out all the thinkers, the great voices, and then they replaced them with the fakes, family. There's a very crazy story that's been going around, because one of the so Jomo Kenyatta, the founding father of the Republic of Kenya, he wrote this book called Facing Mount Kenya. And now, where he talks about how he was the medicine man, and he kind of outlines the whole Agikoyo tribe and everything. But now there's this story that's been going around that he didn't even write that, because he was groomed. I really believe he was like one of the first Masons family. He was groomed to come and take over. And there's rumors and allegations, allegedly, family, that may actually have been written for him by his Muzungu wife, but those are stories for other days. So they created these puppets, family, and they hijacked the narrative. And instead of the narrative being about how the nations wanted to be free, how we wanted to return to our ancient ways, how we wanted our land back, we wanted our culture back, we wanted all of this back, it now became about, Kenya wants to be free, but, we can't kick out the Mzungu, so we're going to do an equal buyer, equal seller. And because you see, countries like Tanzania, family, there's the Ma community, the Maasai, who are both in Tanzania and Kenya. There were different nations that went to the United Nations, the divided nations, and said, look, we want the freedom of the Maasai. We want the Maasai nation back. We want the Agikoyo nation back. And we were tricked and told, first, liberate Kenya. You guys liberate Kenya, you guys liberate Tanzania, you guys liberate Uganda, and then once you're free, You can now come together and the Maasai can do what they want and all of this, but that's not how they did it. Because a lot of our leaders, first of all, went and signed agreements. And these agreements are the contracts. These are the spiritual, like signing your soul to the devil. At independence, our independence was signed away to the devil, family. Literally. Ghana has a Lancaster Agreement. Kenya has a Lancaster Agreement. If you look at all the former, British colonies, that's what it's all about. Because this was the neo-colonial agreement. And then our governments, even the ones, governing the mental, they had to now, because they were told, okay, we're giving you everything here. So you're given the Babylon culture, the Babylon pillars. From the hospitals to the schools to the government, everything was left intact, including the slave education that they had put in schools across the country. And then there's this whole class of people, what many call the petty bourgeois or whatever, who had been educated, because you see, before, like the divided kingdom, when they knew that Kenya was about to gain its independence, like there was no independence, that they were going to have to give up having the Mzungus run things and have Oreos run things instead. A lot of the gatekeepers of today were taken to the divided kingdom, to the divided states, put through their schooling system, and then they came back totally cultured and cloned mentally in the Mzungu ways, totally disconnected. And this is what my PhD was on. And it actually looked at how not only were they taken, not only did they come to our villages and pick specific chosen ones from our villages to go be airlifted. Like in Kenya, we had the Mboya Kennedy airlifts, where the famous Kennedy actually airlifted Kenyan students to go study the Mzungu way in the divided states. This is how they perpetuated their culture. This was a military move, family. There was no independence. It was a renegotiation of the colonial system, which is why many African scholars call it the neo-colonial system. And when I did my PhD studies, I did interview a lot of these, of our grandmothers and grandfathers who got airlifted to the divided states, for example. And they talked about how during the week they would go to schools, but during the weekends they'd be taken to some secret meetings by various different secret societies, Vatican organizations and everything, and they received a whole other education. And what happened is that when a lot of these people came back home, they were totally alienated from their own people. They even looked down on their own people. And this still happens. A lot of the people who have become professors and lecturers across, like a lot of like the Agikoyos or the Kenyans or the Africans, and who come back home, there's a whole adjustment. Or even the doctors, the Western doctors, how they'll look at traditional medicine or herbal healers. They'll look at us like herbal healers, like we don't know nothing, when we are the original medicine man, when they're not doing anything. Them is just potions. They're just giving people pills and potions and hoping somehow it tricks their body into healing them. A lot of people, it's not the pills that heal them, it's the belief that the pills are healing them that heals them. Their own faith in those pills, which indicates the healing in them. Stories for the days. And family, there's someone who wrote a message to me on Instagram, and he was talking about how when he goes to Nairobi, he's shocked at how Kenya has made it totally like a Mzungu paradise, like totally catering to them, totally allowing our culture to be melted down. And the elite, the so-called educated, the so-called middle and upper class, actually look down on tradition. Some even think our tradition, our ancestors, our culture is evil and wicked. And that is why they're living those absolutely fabulous lives, because they've sold their soul to the devil, and that's their reward. And the only time they wake up is when they send their children abroad, and their children actually have either a mental breakdown or have some kind of awakening because of the racism and the crazy treatment they receive when they go to these bougie schools. Their children actually become aware, like, yo, like, they don't like black people out here. Oh, man. But family, the liberation of Africa is the restoration of our story, our memory. That is, and we need our memory to move forward and to build what is coming. It cannot be built, because you see, everything that we've built in Africa since the 1950s, or since the Mzungu came maybe 100, 200, 300 years ago, whatever, has been using the Mzungu's very short-term memory. And that's why you see nothing lasts in Africa. Our economies fail because we're using the economic memory of Babylon. And the economic memory of Babylon is very corrupt. And you see, us as a melanated people, we take something and we amplify all its core aspects and attributes. So we have amplified. Some have amplified the best of Babylon, but a lot of us have amplified the worst. And because Babylon is created on such a negative, corrupt, blood-sucking, vampiristic foundation, that's why we find that the systems of Babylon that are implemented on the motherland never work for us and end up even eating us alive, literally. And I share all this to say, family, the most important work you can do for the motherland, for the ancient ones, for the restoration of our people, is to restore your own memory, both individual and collective. Even in seeking out your story, you take immense and significant strides for our people, family. Anyway, remember that Ruby Finance does have an information session, family, on Zoom. You can get the Zoom link for the 29th of July and August 2nd. rubyfinance.ca /Gambia 2023 is where you can find them. And don't forget, like, if you really want to visit the motherland, family, Ruby Finance is organizing an amazing group trip that will be both spiritual and business, and it's taking place from the 12th to the 24th of November. It's an incredible opportunity, and if you've been wanting to go to the motherland, this is definitely one opportunity you should take advantage of. Until next time, family, tuko pamoja.
Owning your African real estate is one click away. Ruby Finance is a Black-owned real estate agency helping Afro-descendants invest and relocate in Africa. Act now and save your spot in paradise.